Tanse, I'm Kristen Achkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. Ontario's Special Investigations Unit, or SIU, has been called to oversee a recent death that took place in Deer Lake First Nation in Ontario, located 580 kilometers north of Thunder Bay. According to the Anishinaabe-Aski Police Service, police at Deer Lake First Nation responded to a call for service on Tuesday afternoon at around 1:30 p.m. Police say there was an arrest warrant out for a man, and when he was located, the man fled from a home. The man was then injured as one of the officers discharged his firearm at him. Police provided first aid to the 45-year-old male. He was taken to the nursing station where he was later pronounced deceased. The SIU is now investigating the circumstances surrounding the incident but cannot provide any more details. The OPP is also asking anyone with information on the incident or video to come forward. Muskowekwan First Nation residents in southern Saskatchewan woke up to a dangerous person alert this morning at 7 a.m. Thankfully, RCMP have now lifted the lockdown and say residents are safe to leave their homes. Earlier today, RCMP warned the public about 28-year-old Elijah Albert, who was seen with a rifle near Muskowekwan. Residents were told to stay home and lock their windows and doors. There were also unconfirmed media reports that RCMP officers in Albert were involved in a shootout and that one Mountie was shot but is expected to be okay. Albert was located and arrested just after 9 a.m. near Lestock, Saskatchewan. RCMP thanked the public for their help and said the investigation is ongoing. A three-day premiers meeting in Huntsville, Ontario wrapped up on Wednesday. On Monday, Indigenous leaders met with the premiers in a roughly 2-hour meeting to voice their concerns on various issues, including future resource development projects. APTN's Fraser Needham has reaction from two of the leaders who took part in those meetings and brings us this report.
On Monday, members of the Assembly of First Nations, Chiefs of Ontario, Métis National Council, and Native Women's Association of Canada got an audience with Canada's premiers. APTN National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak says the meeting was cordial, but First Nations want the provinces to be more inclusive when it comes to First Ministers' meetings.
I said it's so important that First Nations people have a proper full seat around the table. And you want to come in here and you want to talk about big projects and at the same time, we need to talk about some uncomfortable truths.
Temagami First Nation Chief Shelley Moore-Frappé agrees both the federal and provincial governments need to do a better job of including First Nations in the decision-making process rather than after decisions have already been made.
We got to stop the after the fact, after the decisions are made, and then play catch-up. So we're really talking about if we want to really see true reconciliation, the economic reconciliation, we have to be at the table right from the beginning when decisions are being made.
Last week, Prime Minister Mark Carney met with First Nations leaders in Gatineau, Quebec. On Thursday, he will meet with Inuit leaders in Inuvik, Northwest Territories. Indigenous Services Minister Mandy Galmasti was at the Gatineau meeting, and she will be at the Prime Minister's side again in Inuvik. She says these meetings are only the first steps and there will be much more to come.
There's going to be those follow-up tables, regional discussions, engaging more at the community level, coming to understand what is the approach, provincially with the relationship to the Indigenous communities that are within those provinces. How are we going to look at that lens moving forward? Still a lot of work to do. Of course, always room for improvement. Nothing's perfect.
Carney has also pledged to meet with Métis leaders in August. Fraser Needham, APTN National News, Ottawa.
Hydro One in Ontario recently hosted an open house to discuss the proposed North Shore link. But as CTV's Corey Nordstrom explains, the Garden River First Nation has major concerns with the company's proposal.
An open house for Hydro One's North Shore link looked to inform those in the Soo about the preferred route for the new transmission line between the Soo and Wharncliffe. Among those in attendance were a large number from Garden River First Nation, who claim the route runs through land that should be a part of their reserve.
With the Pennefather, we're going to extend our boundary up here.
2 years ago, the First Nation filed the Pennefather land claim, stating that boundary mistakes were made when their treaty was crafted.
On the maps that you see, that are open to the public, you see, the INAC reserve boundary, right? That's what's been identified to the public. But what we hold to is much greater than that and of a higher authority because it's at the treaty level. So the treaty specifically identifies the area as reserve land. And so a failure by the Crown to survey and to make known to settler communities of the area does not mean that the area ceases to be reserve land.
Garden River leadership expects it will be many years before the land claim is resolved, but if approved, could spell major issues for Hydro One's line that is expected to begin construction in 2027 and be operational in 2029.
I know that they have timelines, but they have to go through, or they have to have conversation with Garden River before this goes through, because it's just going to be met with protest, and it's not going to be pleasant.
Bell makes clear that they are not against the project, but want an equal seat at the table while decisions are made, and they don't believe a preferred route should have been named at this stage.
We have an open commitment that as they are bringing more information forward, along with any other Indigenous community that is bringing information forward, we will take that into account and take it into consideration with how we are going to construct the project as we move forward.
Garden River officials believe they can come to terms with Hydro One without impacting the project's timelines. Further open houses for the line will take place in Searchmont and Warncliffe the next 2 days, respectively. Corey Nordstrom, CTV News, Sault Ste. Marie.
We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. And to read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. And you can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. We have more news after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Manitoba's Minister responsible for accessibility, Nahani Fontaine, has announced new funding recipients for accessibility projects. From municipalities to businesses, the province hopes the money will create a barrier-free Manitoba everyone can enjoy. Here's APTN reporter Sav Jonza with more.
The Manitoba government is looking to make the province more accessible for its residents and visitors living with disabilities. Through this year's Manitoba Accessibility Fund, more than $800,000 will go to businesses, nonprofit organizations, and municipalities with projects to remove barriers and create awareness.
From accessible wayfinding in museums to inclusive programming in libraries, schools, and art organizations, from rural municipalities to urban centers, these projects are helping us imagine and realize a better Manitoba for all.
Projects from 34 organizations have been selected for the grants. This is the fourth year of the fund, which has provided more than $3 million to 142 recipients so far. The Arts Accessibility Network Manitoba won an award for their project last year. It audited different arts venues across Winnipeg and Brandon to see if they met various accessibility needs.
We got together with the community in 2022 and across 3 or 4 different online sessions, we spoke with the community to say, what do you need to participate in the arts? And so that is the impetus for our audit. And this way we can collect the information that all members need, and it's all in one place. So they just have to go to our website, the database is there, and they can get all the accessibility information they need.
Despite being 25 years into a new millennium, Janelle Shaw says people living with disabilities still need to fight to get their needs met.
So there's these additional steps that are often put on people with disabilities, and because oftentimes it takes us longer to do things, it just really compounds just our ability and our energy to work. So it's really important that we continue to advocate that, that we continue to just push the ball on accessibility, because a lot of people are really interested, but they don't know how to go forward. Right?
Shaw says it's important to meaningfully consult those impacted by accessibility barriers when looking to break them down. Sav Jonza, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
What began as a light-hearted idea among friends has now gradually evolved into a promising business venture. Fueled by a shared passion for music and a spirit of creativity, two Innu men's modest project is now gaining momentum. APTN's Kim Sullivan brings us the story behind the Meshtuck guitars.
Finalement, ça va donner un bon produit, hein, Marc? On est parti de ça, on est arrivé à ça. C'est vraiment beau.
There are two of them, passionate about music and wood. Their dream, to create handmade guitars right here in the Innu community of Mastayach in Quebec.
Tous les petits moments qu'on est capable de trouver pour travailler ensemble dans l'atelier, on le fait. C'est comme ce matin à 5h30.
Today, that dream has been realized even in professional studios. Initially, however, Mathieu Grégoire and Danny Lachance started out making furniture.
Fait qu'on a starté la compagnie qu'on a appelée Meshtuck, qui voulait dire bois. Puis on est tous les deux guitaristes. Puis un midi, on est en train de dîner tous les deux ensemble. Puis on s'est comme dit, hey, on essaie-tu de faire des guitares électriques? Un peu à la blague. Puis finalement, ça l'a déboulé.
To do this, they undertook training at the Quebec School of Luthery on the manufacture of electric guitars. After more than 2 years of trial and error, they finally had a product that lived up to their expectations.
On est tout le temps fiers quand on sort nos guitares d'ici et on joue avec. Mathieu, c'est notre testeur de guitare. Puis Mathieu, c'est un bon soliste. Fait que quand on l'entend jouer, on est content. Là, on sait qu'on a une belle guitare qui sort de l'atelier.
Canadian country artist Matt Lang's touring guitarist Étienne Joly was also impressed and contacted them with a proposal.
On s'en va donner un show à Robertval en juillet. Fait qu'il dit, si tu veux, on est prêts à jouer avec tes guitares.
So in July 2024, Matt Lang also took the stage with a Meshtuck guitar. Since then, Matt Lang has been traveling the world with not one, but two Meshtuck guitars, and he'll have a third one in October. APTN News asked how it felt to see their creation on stage.
C'est indescriptible. Puis, à la limite, c'est quasiment comme une drogue, là, c'est euphorique aussi. Là, c'est un beau feeling, c'est un beau feeling.
What makes a Meshtuck guitar so unique? Artists who have tried them say that the magic is in the neck.
Ah oui, c'est beau ça. Ouais, on va tout changer de manche pour penser à cette manche-là.
Je te dirais juste en la plaçant, puis juste en touchant le derrière du manche, tu voyais qu'il y avait un certain potentiel. Puis, c'était pas banal, là.
The wood used for Meshtuck guitars is also carefully chosen, selecting wood species that allows them to create guitars that can't be found in stores. Mathieu also adds a little secret that might explain the unique energy of a Meshtuck.
Je ne l'ai jamais dit à Danny, ça. Ce que je fais, quand je façonne un corps, je fais juste le toucher un petit peu, puis je me ferme les yeux. Puis après ça, ça dure environ 2-3 secondes. Après ça, ben là, c'est fait. Je remercie aussi le bois de s'offrir à moi un peu.
These guitars are also the beginning of a bigger dream.
Même si moi et Mathieu, on ne savait pas que ça allait décoller vite comme ça, on avait quand même un but. Le but, c'était on veut redonner à la communauté le plus possible. Des magasins de musique, il n'y en a pas ici. Puis on aimerait ça avoir l'atelier de musique, on aimerait ça avoir le magasin de musique, puis même avoir un petit endroit à côté où ce que les gens vont pouvoir venir jouer de la musique.
And finally, now that Matt Lang owns Meshtuck guitars, which artists would Mathieu and Danny like to see strumming their 6 strings?
Chris Stapleton, on aimerait ça un jour. S'il peut entendre parler de nous autres, ou si on peut l'approcher, j'aimerais bien ça qu'il y ait une de nos guitares un jour.
APTN National News contacted Chris Stapleton's team, but has not heard back. Yet. Who knows? Maybe this dream will come true too. Kim Sullivan, APTN National News, Innu community of Mastayach in Quebec.
We now want to tell you about this week's second web poll question. Over on our website, we ask, should media have more access to closed-door meetings between government and Indigenous peoples? Your answers are yes, no, or unsure. Go to our website at aptnnews.ca/polls to have your say. Chief Councillor Marilyn Slett of the Health-Sick Tribal Council in BC is up next to talk about her written letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney and her call in protecting the West Coast from more resource development. We'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. St. John's 22, Charlottetown 23. 18 in Cartwright, the Grand River 16. 26 in St. Jovite, Quebec City 25. Ottawa, sunny there, and 29. Toronto 29. Wawa 14. Sudbury 24 and sunny there. Smoky and Puckatawagan at 20. Norway House 17 and sun. Sunny in Winnipeg at 19. Brandon 19. 18 in Swift Current. 18 in Saskatoon. 20 in Meadow Lake, smoky in La Ronge at 15. Showers and high level at 19, Fort McMurray 23. 30 in Medicine Hat, Calgary 28 in rain. 33 in Kamloops, Campbell River 24. 17 in Fort Nelson and showers there, Smithers 21. 14 in Watson Lake, Old Crow 18. 21 in Wrigley, Norman Wells 18. Fort McPherson 15, Colville Lake 18. Baker Lake 13, Chesterfield 14. And Iqaluit 6, Arctic Bay 8. On July 22nd, Coastal First Nations Great Bear Initiative delivered an open letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney calling on him to uphold Bill C-48, the 2019 Oil Tanker Moratorium Act. Chief Councillor Marilyn Slett of the Health-Sick Tribal Council joins us now to discuss the letter and her calls for more protections for the West Coast. Chief Slett, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Can you explain to our viewers the details of the open letter you sent to Prime Minister Mark Carney and what Bill C-48 is about?
Yes, it's nice to be here. Thank you. So, Coastal First Nations is an alliance of coastal communities, First Nations on the Central Coast, North Coast, up to Haida Gwaii. And we sent a letter to Prime Minister Carney expressing our concern over the talk about national projects, and one including specifically an oil project on the north coast of BC, which would also, we've also heard, through media with the Alberta Premier, calling for the lifting of the oil tanker moratorium. So the open letter was expressing our concern that we don't support a northern oil project, and we definitely do not support the lifting of the oil tanker moratorium.
Chief, is there any room for compromise when it comes to extracting and transporting crude oil in your territory?
Well, the North Pacific Coast is one of the richest and most productive cold water marine ecosystems on Earth, and it remains a source of sustenance, culture, and livelihood for our communities and for British Columbians. We've spent decades protecting the Great Bear Rainforest and the Great Bear Sea. And, our position on oil on the coast is not new. It spans over 50 years. Going back to the oil port inquiries in the 1970s. So this is not something new to us. We've spent a lot of time negotiating really good agreements like the Great Bear Agreement, some collaborative fisheries agreements. We've done a lot of work, and all of this can be put into jeopardy with a tanker project.
And as the chief of your nation and as one of the leaders in your community and area there, you feel like you need to speak out with regards to what's happening here.
We do. I mean, we certainly know and understand, the climate that, this country is in, and, with, President Trump's, continued, aggression towards other countries. So we see that, but we also don't believe that going backwards to, a project that was, opposed and quashed down, and something that, poses, such a threat to the coastline. It's a livelihood, like I said, not just for our communities, but many British Columbians. It's commercial fishing, tourism, food production. These things are very important to sustain.
So I have to ask you, what is the alternative when it comes to resource development and economic growth in your territory?
Well, one of the things that we, have seen in British Columbia is the LNG projects that, are under development. There's, a few that are, at least 3 that are under development. One is, just had its maiden voyage out of Kitimat, last month. The LNG tankers, we're going to see about 175 on the coast this year, just with, the Cedar LNG. When the other projects are in full swing by 2030, we'll see an upwards of 600 LNG tankers on the coastlines of British Columbia. And we certainly still have concerns about the cumulative effects, that it's going to have on the ecosystem. But British Columbia is doing their part in energy projects with LNG. Those are monumental increases in tanker traffic. Throwing oil tankers into that mix is just not something that we could support or ever provide our consent to.
I have about 30 seconds left, Chief, but finally, what's your steps? What steps do you want the Liberal government to do next?
To meet with us, to talk with us. So far, we've only heard Prime Minister Carney on, through the news, with his, expressions of what, these national projects could be or where they may be. But, he has not reached out to us to talk to us directly.
Chief Slett, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time.
Jessica.
And that's your daytime newscast for this Thursday, July 24th. We're back again in a few hours for your evening newscast, including part 1 of Dennis Ward's interview with Prime Minister Mark Carney. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again. Ekse.